point in your career put you on the map of being a supermodel?
I think it's when I feel like I hit like a glass ceiling within that industry, which was, I hate redundancy. So I hate doing the same thing over and over again. And I was extremely fortunate and grateful for the money I was making, and I was saving it. And, but it got to a point where I just said, I didn't come to Puerto Rico just for this. You know, I started booking jobs with top models with like Coco Rocha or Leah Kabidi, and it would be little old me. And I'm like, wait a second, if the client can see that I can hold my ground with these other girls that do high fashion, I obviously have something because I sell, but as well, my image fits in with this group. And I'm like, something is not computing. Like, what is it? So I started getting frustrated, and I went to talk to the agency, and I was like, you know, I want to do more high fashion things. I know I do some cute editorials, and during Fashion Week, I would do like some shows. I would do like Oscar de la Renta, TV, and like some other cool shows, but it was enough to keep me relevant and cool for my clients, but not enough for high fashion. And I just remember them making excuses, saying, well, Joan, we showed you to everybody, you know, and I said, what about couture? They said, couture is not going to break your career. Only rich women go to couture to see shows. That's not going to change anything. And I was like, oh, wow. It was always like they were like inflicting more self-doubt in me. And the breaking point for me was that they had different categories in an agency, like commercial girls, high fashion girls, direct bookings. And I found out that one of my agents wanted to switch me from the main board to direct bookings, which was kind of like a downgrade. It meant like I already had my clients and they already knew that they were going to book me, but they weren't going to push me in I became like a cash cow. And I think that was like the tipping point for me, where I was like, oh, so you don't see it for me. And I just decided to leave. I was like, I need to find somebody else. So then I spoke to an agent. His name is Kyle Hagler from IMG. And I remember being so scared, and I was so stressed because it's like one of those things where it's like, yo, if I fall flat on my face, you know, I hate to be like, oh, damn, they said it. But I think I was more happier knowing that I tried than giving up before trying. Like, that was my fire, and I wanted to prove them wrong. I wanted to prove it to them. I wanted to prove it to like the naysayers that, you know, say it can't be done, or this is your limit. And I was like, you know what? Let me do it. So I had a conversation with him, and I was like, you know, I don't know if I'm supposed to reach out or you guys are supposed to reach out to the girls. And he was like, no, don't. Like, you know, if the girl feels like she's not happy with her representation, like, it's okay to reach out. And I remember saying, I was so desperate. I told him, if I don't have to work for a year, I've saved enough money. If you need me to gain weight, lose weight, chop my hair, color my hair, let me know. I'll do it. Like, I'm willing to take that risk in order to know that there's going to be an opportunity. I said, just show me the direction. I'll do the rest. And he was like, okay. And like, it lit fire on him too, because I think he was at a point in his career where he wasn't feeling inspired as well by like models or like the industry. And it was almost like he wanted to prove it too, that he can, you know, break a girl into the industry. And we just became a good fucking team. And he said, Joan, go to Paris during couture and try to get, you know, an exclusive. And I said, but my other agency told me that that's not gonna make or break me. And he was like, well, they don't know shit. And he's like, when I asked him if I needed to change anything, he said, no, Joan, just the only thing, just like, you know, don't be as commercial or as like, you know, pretty. He's like, just be more tomboy. And I said, done. I am a tomboy. Like, I am from the country. Like, that is my life. It's just like, you know, you mold it. And I was like, oh, this is done deal. So then I started like walking more meaner, more like androgynous, and just like I switched it up. I went to the castings in Paris. I went to Givenchy, met Ricardo. They put me in that leotard, did my Polaroids. I was super shy and I was like, oh, whatever. I don't know if this is going to happen, especially after going from like 10 to 15 castings a day and getting turned down every single time and not booking everything. And as soon as I'm walking out the doors, my agent called me and he's like, Joan, don't go anywhere else. You just got the exclusive for Givenchy. And like my whole hairs and my body stood up. And I just remember telling to myself, Joan, this is it. This is the moment you've been waiting for. And this is what's going to change the trajectory. Like I felt it in my fucking soul. And that was it, basically. I did the fucking exclusive. He bleached my brows. I look androgynous, and people were like, who the fuck is this bitch?
Wow. I love this.
Yeah.
What year was that around?
Girl, I don't know. I'm so bad with years because of this industry. I don't even know what day it is sometimes. I go by numbers.
I know, I feel you. Was that the time when I remember there was this campaign where Maria, how do you say her name?
Maria Carla.
Yeah. Sorry. I drew a blank. Was that the same campaign or was
No,
it?
I think it was the season. So I did the couture. Mm-hmm. And then the season after that, then I did the campaign. It was the one that I'm dressed in all red and I have my hands around some boys. And that was the image that like fucked with everybody. They're like, what the fuck?
You had bleach eyebrows in that, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
I see the image so vivid. It was an instant, save of like an inspiration source for me.
Oh, really? Yeah, and like Martin Marcus shot it.
Yeah.
So, they're like masterminds in that space, and I became friends with them too, and I was just with them in Brazil. So it's good to always, build relationships with people in the industry because, you support each other.
Totally.
Throughout.
Wow. So Givenchy was and the couture show specifically which was the opposite of what the agency previously said. That was the moment that you were like, I made it.
Exactly. And that's why sometimes you can't listen to what people say because sometimes they project their own self-doubt on what can't be done. And the same thing that was told that wouldn't make me was the thing that put me on the map. Wow. And had I allowed that to seep into my brain, I wouldn't have gone that route. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's scary, trust me, to take a risk and, it's dark when you're doubting yourself, but, it's better to live in that fear of taking the risk than never knowing if it was going to happen.
Yeah, I can relate. I remember meeting with agencies for representation a while back and them asking me in the meeting, they were really nice and they were just like, what do you want to do with your career? And I was like, I kind of want what everyone wants. I want Vogue. I want W. I want V. I remember specifically saying that. And I have not yet worked for them yet. And they literally laughed the two of them laughed and said, wow. Get in line, honey. Everyone does. That's what they said. And then I had my next meeting the same week. It was with my first agency I ever signed with. And I said the same thing to him and he became my agent. And I said the same thing and he said, oh, we can do that. It was just like a very casual, like, no, I got you, and I was like, wow. And then you knew what I knew then what the right fit was, so it's really interesting how, I say this to my kids all the time too. I'm like, just because someone says something doesn't mean you have to think the same way or believe that, even when there's commercials on television, I'm like, just because someone's saying something doesn't mean it's true. Like you don't have to drink that beer on that beach to be a cool person. Like this commercial is telling you.
Yeah, that's one thing my dad always said to me. He said, Joan, question everything.
Yeah.
He's like, be always inquisitive. Don't think that, cause, and the older you get, you understand, like everybody has their own truth. No one is right more than yours if you deem it that you believe it, you know? So it's like you're going to create and narrate your own story.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I love your message. So at this time now in your career, what is a career goal for you that you would love to manifest?
Hmm. I would I would say within the industry, things that I haven't gotten yet would be an Italian Vogue. I mean, not Italian, French Vogue cover and a
Mm-hmm.
British Vogue cover. Those are the two ones that I haven't gotten under my belt. As far as, you know, like an accolade in my career.
Yeah.
Um, and what else? I mean, I just think it's like also to just growth in different spaces and, you know, getting more contracts. If it's a beauty contract, athleisure wear, like those are like always the heavy hitters.
Mm-hmm.
And to build relationships with brands. Um, so I would say those are the things that I want to tackle, especially because I don't know if you know, but I have scoliosis.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I remember.
So it's like a deviation of your vertebrae, and I've always had to have discipline with my body, not because I want to be skinny, because trust me, I'm always trying to gain weight and like have muscle, but I always have to do it so I could keep my back strong and my glutes strong so it can alleviate the pain
Hmm.
and it doesn't make my back go worse. So because I didn't get the operation and my basically crookedness is so much so that I should have had one. Even doctors are surprised that I didn't do it. They're like, wow, you actually should have had they're like, and do you have pain? And I'm like, occasionally, like I'll have spasms if like I pull something or like I'm laying down for too long or standing up for too long, you know, like just normal stuff. And they're like, oh wow, this is actually really interesting because someone like you would be experiencing chronic pain. And they're like, whatever it is you're doing, just keep doing that because it's maintains your curvature. So I
Hmm.
think that's just a message I always wanted to share with people because sometimes people think that being skinny is the thing or that people work out to be skinny. And in my case, that's not it.
Wow. Interesting. Aw. So I wanted to ask you about a few more questions about your career. So what's it like working with iconic legends like Stephen Meisel, and like Pat McGrath and Guido? Like when you work for Italian Vogue, for example, like on an editorial job.
Mhm.
Um, just thinking about it, like I would love to be a fly on the wall on set because I do know that like a lot of the hair and makeup assistants, for example, that work with that team, it's not like they're necessarily on set. They're more like behind the scenes.
Oh
But
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it must be so incredible to be with so legend, like be in the presence and collaborating as a model, especially like.
Yeah, I feel like the first couple of times it was nerve wracking because of that, you know, because of the weight it has. And you're like, oh my God, I finally made it to be in front of the lens of this legend or, you know, working with, with Pat or with Guido or Orlando Pita or like with so many that I've been fortunate enough to work with. You're kind of like a little bit nervous because they've made it on their own and they've created their own legacy. And then I just appreciate the creativeness that comes behind it. And they're so in tuned and so like a perfectionist
Mhm.
because of their creative. They're like, this is the vision. So they have to capture it. So a lot of the times you could be there for hours getting hair and makeup ready because they're like perfecting it. And then once you're there, you know, Steven is so incredibly sweet and kind and gentle, which is like weird. And you're like, okay. And he's a true master of making sure the talent feels comfortable because he knows that if the person is comfortable, you're going to get the image you want. So he makes sure that nobody's stressing her out, and he'll have a mirror. He'll say to the production, did you ask her if she's okay, if she needed some water? Did you ask if she needs a chair? Like he's basically training them to make sure to take care of the talent. And he basically just lets you be. He's not telling you what to do. He just sees what you work with. And then if he sees something and captures it, he'll tell you to do that again. Like there's nothing stressful about it.
Wow.
And it's just it flows so easily that sometimes I'm even surprised, and he'll get a shot sometimes in like 5 minutes. And you're just like, really? And then you look at it and you're like, oh, wow. You're like, this is insane. And he really is like a director, you know, like even when he does the films, he's just directing you, and he feeds you this energy of like, yes, this is what he wants. And the fabulous thing is you're done by 5 p.m. There is no one working that late, which is amazing. It's so professional.
That's really great. I mean, I tell you, sometimes those 10-hour days, they just suck the life out of you.
And I'm like, I have no more to give, guys. But sometimes it's a balance, because sometimes you have really, really easy days and you're like, oh, wow, that's it. Wow. And then other days it's like, whew. So it balances itself off. It's not every time it's the same.
Yeah, exactly. So when you first started modeling in New York, did you have a favorite type of job back then compared to like a favorite type of job now? And when I mean type, I mean like shows versus shoots versus, uh, you know.
Oh, okay. I think back then for me was shows, because I would do shoots so many so often. And it was kind of like I was on autopilot, because it was like, you know, you hit the poses and you know what to do, and you're just like replicating over and over and over and over again. And the shows were like more adrenaline rush, where it's like you get there, it's like hair, makeup, a bunch of people, even though they fried your hair and like, you know, they paint you with like the eye curler and stuff, but the results were more immediate. You know, you would hit the runway and you see the pictures that day, and I would go to, what was that one website? Fashion.
Style.com?
No, the other one. It was called Fashion something, and it was like pages, and they would talk about the model and show the picture of what she did. Fuck, what was the name?
It was more about like, it would show like new editorials that came out too, and like people would comment.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was like a vlog. It was called Fashion something. I don't know if it still exists, but I was addicted to that page, and so was my mom. And so I would say shows were more exciting for me back then, because I just got to strut my little thing and like be backstage and all that commotion, and it just broke the monotony of shooting.
Yeah, I see. And nowadays,
I would say a little bit of both, for different reasons. The editorials is because it just feeds my creative nature, and I'm very into like storytelling, and that's how I've always projected my career when I shoot. I don't see it just as an image. I see it as a persona, a character, which a lot of the times they'll tell you like, okay, this is the girl, this is the vibe, this is, you know, the vision, and you transform into that character. Even though you're not speaking with your words, you should be able to express yourself with your body, your movement, your eyes. And I just love that creativeness behind it. And like Merton Marcus was always like good for that. Stephen Klein also is another master, where it's like you just get, it's almost like a movie, but in imagery. So I just always appreciate that till this day, because I'm like, damn, that like it looks cool. Like I don't see myself, I see a version of me, you know. And you just speak through the pages rather than just being like a dead little fish.
yeah.
And then fashion shows now, I love it because I get to see it firsthand. And then also too, it's kind of like a reunion because everybody's traveling. They have their own lives. This is the two times, three times in a year where you get to congregate with your peers and with your friends, and you get to catch up on the things of life, what you're doing. And it's a great moment.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. It is like a reunion from people that live all over the world and seeing all the celebrities, and it's like it's interesting. That's for sure. So what do you think your life would have been like if you never pursued a modeling career? Like, where do you think you might have lived right now, or like what career path you may have followed at this point?
Damn, that's interesting. I think I probably would have been in Puerto Rico, or maybe I actually would have gone somewhere else in the States, maybe Florida, or I can't think of somewhere else, but most likely I would have carried my studies in psychology and gotten my doctorates and specialized in couples therapy. I think that would have been my career path.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Do you have any regrets in your career?
I think I can't think specifically of something I did that I'm like, oh, I regret that. I just regret moments where sometimes I felt pressured to do something that I know I didn't want to do. And then when I'm there doing it, I don't feel fulfilled. And I feel like I'm going against myself.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be here. Like, I'm not enjoying this. And it's just, it doesn't put you in a good vibrational spirit. But I can't. No, I think it happens, like once in a while that you're just like, oh, fuck it. You forget it and you don't put that much thought into it after it's done. But I would say that is this moment where I'm like, and I feel like a lot of models go through it all the time because every time we talk to each other, they're like, why the fuck am I doing this shit? Like right? Or like, oh, fuck these favors. Because it's always a favor that never gets returned. It's always I have to fly myself out for this shoot, this, that, and the third, and then the person doesn't remember the favor, and it's like, wow, was there something to gain for me from it?
Sure. Exactly. I know what you mean. So I want to talk a little bit about any struggles or observations or experiences on your rise to the top that you find interesting to share, specifically as a woman of color.
Yeah, I mean, with that, I would say one, it was just a tokenism, it was just one space for one of us or two of us, or me being the only Black or Latin girl in a room. On top of just being the only model, sometimes I was just the only person. So not even hair, makeup, assistant, nobody else looked like me. And a lot of the times it was like I was in a room having to represent for who I represent, if that makes sense. And I feel like that was a pressure sometimes. And then also too, just there wasn't a lot of camaraderie because of it. So the industry made girls feel like there was just one spot. So whoever was up and coming, there was no support from your peers that looked like you before you or during you were doing your thing. So I think a lot of that was, the struggle, I would say, or the letdown, or especially the things done behind closed doors from models, stopping you from, getting certain bookings because of that mentality that they kept. And I think that's just so unfortunate and immature that you buy into what the industry made it to be rather than you're just saying there's room for all of us. Nobody's taking from you.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting to see how different casting is since after the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
It's like completely different, and it's like it's so interesting to see the revolution really that happened.
Even so that they're like booking real people, not even models, like street what they call street casting, which I think is amazing, because at the end of the day, people always want to see themselves represented in whichever form that is. If it's your sexuality, if it's your skin color, if it's your culture, your race, your, your gender, like your age group. I just think, fashion has the power of being able to be the curator. So why not do it in a positive light rather than saying, oh, this is my vision of beauty constantly, rather than keeping an open mind. I understand your aesthetic for a show, but just, don't make people feel alienated.
Sure.
Yes. But yeah, it's amazing. I love it.